So over the course of time, I've got a couple of comments that ask or tell me to kind of make a tutorial on how I do my scenery in Planet Coaster. And I thought, well, maybe today's the day that I do that. And of course, that's what you clicked on when you pressed the video. So we're going to get right into that and show you how I do my scenery, mostly foliage work in Planet Coaster. I'm thinking of doing maybe like 3 tutorials in this. First one will be foliage, so this one will be foliage. The next one might be like buildings, how to do good buildings. And the second one we'll see like there, maybe like custom supporting or something like that, just to make Planet Coaster look better and more realistic. So before I start, I'm going to share a little bit about this park that I'm taking cinematic footage of right now. This is Copper Creek. This is my main focus park. This is where Remington came out of, so if you saw that Remington video, you'll recognize some of the footage because that's the same coaster. Copper Creek is my main park, so I put all the hardest work I can into it. And it was my first park in Planet Coaster, but over the course of time I've gotten better, so I wanted to redo it. And so that's the park I'm doing this tutorial in, so let's get right into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to this terrain tab and select the push tool and make sure you edit your settings so you don't have anything crazy. I like to start off small and kind of just build my way. It's always best to start with terrain and make sure everything looks good before you start putting all your foliage. Then you can go to the smooth part in the terrain tab and just start to smooth everything out. I like to turn intensity up all the way, and that just helps it just smooth out everything, make it look a lot better to where all the foliage and rocks and trees kind of sit better on it. Then you can go to the roughen tool and kind of roughen it up just a little bit to make it look more natural. So you smooth it, now you got to roughen it just a tiny bit to where everything flows together. And then we get to the scenery painting, and that's where the magic starts to happen. That's where people actually forget sometimes. And I'm just going to go in here and put some rock in, because this is going to be like an entrance to a mine. So there's going to be like some rock here. We're going to paint some sand or dirt over the grass, because in reality there wouldn't be grass here. So we're just going to paint some sand or rock on top of that grass, and we're done with the terrain. So now we're going to go to the scenery tab, and then we're going to go to this tree icon here and press that, and make sure the first thing you always do is rocks. And this just helps balance everything out. It makes you give a sense of how big the area is, because the rocks in this game are actually fairly big. So once you select a rock, make sure your rock fits the palette of the scenery. You're just going to sink it in using the shift tool and then rotate it after every press. And this helps look like the rock isn't the same rock, just copied all over again. And of course go into different types of rocks and press these around just as well, because it's going to help give your cliff face some variety. And this works for just normal ground too. So again, click, rotate, and then lower it back in. And again, go into some different variety of rocks. It just helps make everything look more fresh and realistic looking. And so yeah, you just shift, rotate, press, shift, rotate. I mean, it's not that hard, but it does require some time. And one thing that you do need to make sure you're doing is making sure that your rock color fits the palette or fixes the color of the terrain you're using. So right here I'm going to delete these because they don't actually match the terrain color, and I'm going to actually keep these yellowish colored rocks instead and kind of lower the gray ones in more, or delete them, just so that it mixes with the cliff face color better. Now you can go to the advanced tool, and this is where it starts to get even trickier. You can actually just rotate your rock around any way you want, put it in the exact spot you want. And I wanted to put some protection over this mine entrance, so I put this big boulder over it to look like there's something holding this mine entrance up. So yeah, you always have to have, you know, a scenery palette that you use. So if you're going tropical, use the tropical rocks, you know, stuff like that. So the next thing is actually to use bushes now. Instead of going trees, you're going to go straight to bushes. And we're going to actually match the palette again. So for these grassland rocks, we're actually going to use this croissant bush, I think it's called. The forest bush, the green bush, and then maybe this bush right here, and then maybe some cacti, because my park is based in Texas. So first we're going to go to this green bush right here, and I just chose this last one. And you're going to sink it in as much as you can to where just a little bit is showing, and then I use the advanced tool here to move it around, get in the perfect place, and then lower it even more if I want to, and place it. And then I do that for every bush. I don't always use the advanced tool, but I basically do that, and make sure you rotate after every time you push it in. It helps so much to make it look like it's a different plant. And if you don't sink it in enough, it's going to look like this plant is literally floating on top of a rock, which doesn't work. So again, go into different types of plants. Using this croissant bush. I don't know the name of it, but I'm using this one right now, and I'm using a lot of these because these plants are generally found in drier climates, which is where this park is based out of. So I'm gonna use a lot of these, almost cover the entire cliff face with these. Not too much to where all you see are these croissant bushes, but I want to make sure you can at least see them. So next, I'm actually adding some color here just to kind of give this cliff face some pop. Nothing crazy, but I wanted to go for this purplish little bush here. I don't know the name of it, but yeah, we're just gonna lower it again, shift, lower it in, and then rotate, and then move it around somewhere else and place it. You don't want to overdo these bushes because then it looks repetitive and it doesn't look very realistic. And here's some trial and error that I actually was doing, and that's something that I was gonna note too. It's perfectly fine to have trial and error. You're never gonna be perfect. So I was just messing around with this little cacti like bush thing, see if this is working. Of course, it doesn't work. So, but you can see me just messing around with that right here, and I thought maybe I should put it in the water. So, nope, that's not gonna work. Then I ultimately switched over to the cactus. What I talked about earlier, it's a drier climate, so you're gonna need more of the drier plants. Cactus don't really need water to survive, so you don't really have to water them all that much. So they're pretty much there. They're gonna work here. So that's another thing. Make sure that your palette matches kind of the scenery type. Next, we're going to go into the tree tab. And I'm going to explain this a little more, but see how our tree is aligning to the surface here? That's a big problem, and we don't want our trees to be diagonal on the cliff like that. That's not realistic at all. And even if it's even flatter, like just a little bit flat like that, it still looks really wonky because that's not how trees generally grow. They'll grow straight up. So we're actually just going to put this, find a flat piece of ground, and use X, which is going to the advanced tool, and then we're going to select, we're going to uncheck align surface, and then cancel that, and then we can select the tree again, and then automatically it should be not aligning to the surface, which means it's not rotating on the surface, but it does kind of raise and lower with the surface, which is nice because it will recognize the terrain. So now you can just lower and place, and make sure you rotate each tree after each place. I can't emphasize that enough. I see a lot of people who just don't do that. They just place tree after tree after tree without rotating or even changing the height. Changing the height helps a lot too because it looks like a different tree after you rotate it and change the height of it. Again, I'm going to emphasize it again. Just make sure you use different types of trees, even different sizes. Normally, the trees in PlanCo have different sizes. There's like 3 different sizes for each tree, so you can use that. Want some taller trees here, so I'm going to use that, and then voila, that's all I did in this little thing, and it took me about 10 minutes, and it didn't take that long, but it looks really, really nice. And it looks a little unfinished right now. I mean, you can personalize that yourself, but of course the whole cliff isn't done. I need to do the top of it and everything, but I just wanted to make this short little thing, and if I turn on reshade here, see how fresh it looks really good. And so yeah, it's just perfect little thing. So now I'm going to show you how I like examples of what I've done in my park. So of course here's the trees. You can see the trees here, then you can see the rocks and the bushes and just all the terrain like that. And if we go to Remington, we got the rock wall here. All the rocks you can see. You got the rocks, the plants, the trees. All of it works, even the terrain painting you can see there, so that everything works out for the palette of Remington. Rocks, trees, plants. So yeah, it all works. Make sure you're rotating. I'm going to say it again. Rotate your bushes and plants after every place, and even rocks too. It helps with the rocks a lot. And here's this nice little water shot. You can see how those rocks combine with the water. And then this is the river rapids. This is actually a different style. I used a different rock style here because I wanted these rocks to look a little wet because they're next to the river rapids, and we use this red floral bush to kind of give it some color. And it's a different palette than what I've been doing, but it looks so good because I matched the palette with the water, so it works. So really all you have to do is, it's just super repetitive. It's just a super repetitive thing. You just gotta learn how to do it. And here's the final shot. This is one of my favorite areas of the park. this is my kind of lakeside area. You can't see it, but there's a lake behind you. But this is my little kiddie area, and I've got a bunch of foliage. There's some flat rides here, and everything just kind of works in this area. And this is Riptide. This is my lakeside launcher, or intimate launch drop tower thingy. Actually, this would be an SNS drop tower. So, of course, you can see all the theming inside here. That's going to actually probably be in the second tutorial, so make sure you stay in for that. But I'll show you how I made this. You can work in theming. That's another like crazy thing that's next level in Planet Coaster, is you can actually do some really cool theming. And if you actually watch this, splash, yeah, it's really cool. I added the splash effect when it launches up, so I'm really proud of this thing. And that's going to be it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a little bit. If you did, leave a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.